What is up, Wizards fans? Welcome to another Believe in Wizards podcast. I'm Matt Modderno. He's Jahadi White. The first domino has fallen here. Jahadi trade this week. Danilo Gallinari is gone. Mike Muscala is gone. Marvin Bagley, Isaiah Livers, and 2 second-round picks are in. I guess just initial reaction. What did you think of the trade?
I like that trade. I like it a lot. We kind of given away two players who we didn't really get much use out of for some potential players that we can really grow with and with more upside in front of them than they have years behind them.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think getting anything out of two guys that I thought would probably be bought out or throw-ins for another deal is honestly like kind of a masterclass. Gallinari was a great player for a long time. I think his meaningful contributions to an NBA team are probably mostly over at this point. And it seems like they also kind of did him a solid too, because it seems like Detroit will buy him out and then he's free to go sign with whatever contender he wanted. He wanted to be with Boston, and then the Wizards couldn't buy him out and have him go to the Celtics. So by trading him first and then getting bought out, he could go back to Boston if he wants to. So it's like a roundabout way of sending a veteran guy where he actually wants to end up, assuming he actually ends up there. So it's never a bad idea to try to do solids for players like that, I think. And hopefully other players remember that the Wizards are a nice organization. So I don't know. It seems like a good move all the way around. If you're Detroit, you get off some bad money. And I don't know. Did you ever see Bagley around the AAU circuit or anything like that? Have you been around him at all, John?
So I've seen Bagley a lot. Right now, especially in the AAU circuit, he was the top guy.
Yeah.
He was such the top guy that Nike pretty much gave him his own EYBL team, right?
Oh, wow.
Which is that he could play with all of his teammates from Phoenix area, because that's where the team was out of. And his father was a coach. So Bagley was that much of a high prospect in high school, one of the top. And he was a really great player. I mean, he is a great player. Yeah. I mean, he can play outside, inside, get downhill. He has a lot of attributes to his game. It just seems like so far in the NBA, he just hasn't been able to find his footing. So it's all about how much he can grow, because he has so many facets to his game. How much can he grow into that player in this type of situation?
So you do think there's more there that we haven't been able to see yet, just based on the role and the fit and things like that in Detroit?
It's way much more than what he's given Detroit, than what we've seen in Detroit in Bagley's game. Great. I think it's a confidence thing. I think it's understanding that you're not going to come to the NBA and just be the man right away like you were in high school and like you were in Duke. So, and as long as you have the right coaches around him to help him grow and his growth, he has more potential than he does, years left, so many years left. Like the guys we got rid of, it pretty much they kind of, more on the tail end of their career. So we're trading for guys who we can grow into something and still have a lot of upside to them. I think Bagley has a lot of upside. I think he could be one of the top players in the league if given the right situation, given the right people behind him, and putting in the right amount of work and understanding. And Livers, I think he also has a lot of potential too. To me, he's a poor man's Klay Thompson a little bit.
I like that. That'd be nice. On Bagley, my wife will back me up because she got annoyed by our DVR being full of Duke games his freshman year at Duke, because I watched every game that they played because he was must-watch TV as a college player. And it's become funny to kind of joke now about, he went ahead of Luka, like what idiots. But there's a reason. Like, he was really good, and I definitely think there's more there. It's hard in today's game if you're not like a true center and you don't protect the rim and you don't shoot. Like, but doesn't mean you can't contribute. And I think with Daniel Gafford likely to miss this next game with a concussion, we're going to see Bagley like right away. Just like throw him out there, give him some minutes, and hopefully we'll know a little bit more about what we can come to expect from him on the Wizards.
I think you gotta right.
Go
Yeah, I think you have to understand Bagley's game as well.
mm-hmm.
Like, I don't believe he's a true center.
Yeah, I think he's more of a 4, ideally, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, he's quick. He can beat guys. He's got a good first step. Like, he can get by other bigger dudes. And if he can stretch the floor a little bit more than we've seen, he becomes even more valuable, I think. So you could play him at multiple positions.
Right.
So I'm with you. It's going to be the defense for me. I haven't seen him play a whole lot so far. It doesn't mean that he can't. It seems like he has the physical tools to. So hopefully that's something they can kind of reinforce with him, and we see a little bit more of that.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I'm just like you. I don't really see his defensive emphasis yet in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of time the NBA just doesn't ask for that. But now in certain situations, you're going to need it from certain players, especially if that Gafford is out, and Gafford it really is a rim protector. He's a definite rim protector. So they're going to measure what Gafford brings compared to what Bagley, if Bagley doesn't bring that, right? That's going to be exposed right away. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I think you have an immediate role to ask him to come in and fill with Gafford out. Like, do what Daniel Gafford did for us. Protect the rim, switch if you need to, but mostly you're going to play some drop, and we'll just start from there and then see what we can build out from there.
But I think you automatically expect a little more scoring out of Bagley.
Yeah, for sure. He's got way more post game than Gafford does. I still get a little nervous sometimes when they give Gafford some of these post ups.
Right.
That's definitely true.
Yeah, I agree.
Monumentals, Bijan Todd, my guy, went and asked a couple really good questions of Monty Williams about what to expect from these two new players. And on Bagley, he said he's got a lot of talent and is searching for a consistent role to go with his talent. He's worthy of that. And they just had poor roster construction. And you know this better than anybody, right? Like, a lot of this is opportunity and fit. And he just never really fit with that team. So sometimes guys that people give up on him too early and they get cast off as, oh, this is what he is. We've put him in a box. But, give him a real fair shake here and just see the full extent of what he can do. And then you decide if you want to keep him or you move him. But this should be exploration time for us, I think.
But where is that to fit in Detroit?
That's what I mean. There isn't.
Like, what system do you fit in Detroit?
It doesn't make sense. Are you going to play him next to Isaiah Stewart and James Wiseman and all these other huge dudes? Like, it just Jalen Duren. Like, where are you going?
Right. Yes, to me, it's the system. I didn't really understand the system. Then it seemed like Detroit was playing too many of the same type of players. So, if you play a specific style and you need a team that needs a lot of different pieces, your style, this style, and build around those styles, Detroit wouldn't fit you anyway. So I don't think we got a fair shake of really seeing Bagley anyway.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. In the chat, Ratchet Glitcher 09 asked, people seem to think or act like Daniel Gafford might get traded, especially since we traded for Bagley. What are our thoughts on this? My take. I don't think picking up Bagley has any bearing on what they do with Gafford. If they get the right deal for Gafford, I think he might go, and they've shown that they're okay without going with much of a center rotation. And you see Bagley play more at the 5 without Gafford, but I don't think because they brought in a big, we're definitely going to send out a big or anything like that.
Well, we did send out a big.
We sent out 2 bigs.
We sent out a backup big.
Yeah, I meant if we traded. So I don't think bringing in Bagley means we'll get rid of Gafford. That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. But then we also did send out a big. So Gafford, one would end up being a good backup for the other. I don't know which way around. It looks like It seems it's all about how Bagley fares out. But Gafford probably would end up being a good backup for Bagley or the other way around. But just by reading what's out there, they're not going to give up a lot. They're not going to just take anything for Gafford. They expect a lot to give him up.
Yeah, for sure. I think I would not be in a hurry to move him, and we'll get more into the Gafford one here in a second. I want to just one more thing on Livers. Monty Williams also said that Livers has a bright future ahead of him. He's a much better shooter than he was able to show with us. And he started out red hot as a rookie, was okay as a sophomore, and then this year had not been shooting particularly well. For me, I'd like to see him get back to just rookie year role, 3D, do those two things really well. But they asked Livers what he thought this trade meant for him, and he said that he'll be able to come in and expand his game in DC in ways he wasn't able to in Detroit. Obviously, everybody already knows me as a 3-and-D guy. My next step is putting the ball on the floor and playmaking. And he just kind of talked about like how he's going to show that he's got a bag and stuff like that. That makes me very nervous, to be honest. Like, I don't actually know for sure that you can do those two things. I would like to see you start with that. We don't even let our top 10 pick show that he has a bag. I don't need Isaiah Livers to come in here and try to like ISO cook people on the wing here. I mean, I give him some minutes, but I would just slow your roll a little bit, young fella, I think would be my advice to him coming in.
Yeah, I mean, guys coming in are very ambitious about what they can do and how much they can grow. But you have to understand what you want to do and what the team wants you to do.
Yep.
Can be two different things. They brought you in here for specifics.
For sure.
Right. So we need those specifics from you first before we start, before you start wanting to. Well, look, we brought you in here from what we know you can do.
Yeah.
Now the extras will come along in time. Right. But
exactly.
make sure you do first what they know you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. You read my mind there. It's like, just let's pump the brakes a little bit. We'll get to that. It doesn't need to come out of the gate day one of you being Kyrie Irving, on the perimeter here.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that plays out a little bit. They mentioned that Isaiah Livers.
We need him to help out Poole since they were teammates more than he trying to be Poole.
We must have ESPN or something here, Jahadi, because that was literally what I was just going to ask you. They were college roommates. Livers said that if he had a best man, if he got married right now, it would be Jordan Poole. Does this help? I mean, I definitely think Poole being here helps Livers get acclimated. But does Livers coming in help Jordan Poole feel more comfortable? Because it just seems like maybe he hasn't totally fit in or meshed well yet. Does having like your guy on the team kind of make you more comfortable?
Absolutely. I mean, you bring your best friend in there, like you said, that's your best man. I mean, that's your best friend, right?
Yeah.
It will be. It's just in that friendship, which one is more the voice of reason? Right. And every friendship is more of a logical one, more of a voice of reason. What type of friend are you? Are you the type of friend? Because a lot of friends tell you, are your friends because they don't tell you what you want to hear. They tell you what you need to hear.
Yep.
Right. Sure. Is that the type of friendship they have? If so, who's the one? Hopefully it's Livers. If so, that can really be that guy to help Jordan Poole out. And then another reason, maybe they looking at it like, how can we get help Jordan Poole to become a better version of himself? And did they went and got his teammate? So it may be something that was calculated by the Wizards.
Yeah, I had that same thought, and I actually hope that's the case of like, if he's going to be here for a while, we can't move him. Let's do everything we can to try to make this work. And when they saw maybe Livers as one of the guys available to them, it's like, okay, maybe he has a little more extra value for the Wizards than he would for some other team as a throw-in. So David S. in the chat asked if Livers is a forward. I think he's a wing necessarily. Like he's He's a 3, maybe sometimes 4, but maybe guards a couple 2s. That's how I would look at him. And then David A. asked about Bagley. Would love to see some low post touches from Bagley. How good are his hands catching in traffic? Things like that. And any thoughts there, Jahadi? I thought he had good hands in college, but I admittedly have not watched him as much in the pros.
Well, we haven't really gotten to see a lot of Bagley in the pros. In college, he had great hands. He had great instincts. He could read. He can function around quick. He had really good feet. Good touch around the basket.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, same way. So those are things that a lot of guys his size really don't have.
Yep.
So he has all those little intangible things that you really need out of a guy's size. We just haven't gotten a chance to really see him really dig his feet in the dirt in the NBA.
Yep. So this is a theory of mine, and Bagley's a good guy to test this out, and it's something I would definitely love your feedback on because you would know this better than me. But one of the comments or criticisms I've seen about Bagley is that he just doesn't seem to have very good basketball awareness defensively. But I know he does offensively. And to me, I feel like if you know where to be and how to manipulate a defense as an offensive player, if you want to, you can do that defensively too. Like if you understand the feel, you have a feel for the game and you understand the flow of the game, it's just a matter of like how hard you're working to apply that. Does that make sense to you? Or am I off base here?
You're right on. Bottom line, Jordan Poole knows how to stop every move that he does.
Right. He knows, yeah, exactly.
He knows how to.
Yeah.
Right. Every good ball player knows how to stop every move that they have, because that's why they have the move.
Mm-hmm.
Because somebody was stopping something, they had to create a counter.
Yeah. Like that.
Something they weren't able to get something off, so they had to create this to get it off. So they had to really literally go back and go into the lab and create something.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have the instincts and the IQ to create your own game off of all the ways you were being stopped, then that's more information. You know how to shut more things down in the game, right?
Yeah. So
the guys who are not good at defense, that's because they hate it.
Right. They just don't.
It's not
want
important
to do it.
To them. Some people hate defense. Defense to some players is like sweeping the floor. It's a chore.
Yeah.
Washing dishes. Like, do you like to watch? Some people look at it that way. Some people look at it as work, and some people look at it as fun. Like some people take that challenge on as fun. Defense is probably the hardest thing for coaches to make players do. That's why in practice, most teams are 70% defense. 70% of their practice is defense. Because it's the thing that you have to program into players. Yeah, it's tedious. You literally have to program it into players. Every player want to hoop. Every player want to put the ball through the bucket, right? So
right, yeah, I'm with you.
So with Bagley, it's like, go back to your question. With Bagley, it's about just wanting to. I think it's about wanting to, because he knows how to stop everything he can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's got a deeper offensive arsenal than a lot of guys, especially in the post. So, he should have more to apply.
And it's about being proactive with reads. Right? It's not reactive, and it's being proactive. Okay. I see if the ball goes to the left and the guy it's a screen, it's only 3 possibilities that could happen. Let me prepare myself for all 3 possibilities now before they even happen. Now I can be there. I can be there a step early before everything happens. I can just shut it down. So it's about preventing. You know what I'm saying? Instead of reacting.
You always hear coaches say, like, do your work ahead of time, right? Like by the time the ball gets to the guy you're guarding, you're already kind of too late.
Do your work early.
Yeah, I love that. Just this move in general, this is a summary from Bobby Marks, but Washington, just since last offseason, has now acquired 1 first-round pick, 4 first-round pick swaps and 8 second-round picks. So eventually here, we will just own all of the second-round picks until the end of time. So we'll see how the rest of this deadline plays out. But I want to just get into some trades here and who's on the trading block and all that kind of stuff. One of the ones that was thrown out here by Sam Vecini of The Athletic was trading Daniel Gafford to the Boston Celtics. And he had the Rockets involved here and some stuff like that. But essentially, the Wizards are sending out Gafford in his trade, and they're receiving back the Celtics' first-round pick for this year and some salary, like a Jock Landau from Houston or something like that. The Celtics will probably have the best record in the NBA, so it's the 30th pick. To me, once you get to like pick 30, it's kind of a crapshoot whether that guy sticks, especially as a rotation player, let alone like at least a fringe starter like Gafford is. So Gafford's young enough. His contract's not bad. To me, there's no world where I would be trading Gafford for the 30th pick in the draft and salary. That's just my take. What do you think about that, John?
Not in this draft pool this year.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. That's even worse. It's like the 40th pick. Yeah.
Yeah, this draft pool just don't. It's not impressive. It's one of those years you just really don't see an impressive draft pool coming from college. Yep. So your 30th pick this year would be a low second rounder.
Yeah, I think so.
So no, I wouldn't. I agree with you. I wouldn't at all.
Like there are certain guys I would maybe consider for the 30th pick. It's just not Gafford. And Eric Pincus of Bleacher Report said that while the Wizards have some intriguing trade candidates, including veteran guards Tyus Jones and DeLon Wright, they've, quote, set a greedy asking price for Daniel Gafford, who is on a multi-year contract. Pincus explains that it's not meant to be a shot at Washington. It's simply a reflection that the team would need a significant return to part with its starting center, who was under team control through the 25-26 season. Thank you. That's the way they should be approaching this. There's no rush to do it. You could move him in future years. But if you get the right deal and somebody's willing to throw a couple picks and a young guy at you or something, you know, I would trade my mom if I had to, if it made the Wizards that much better. So they should at least consider everything for the right deal. I think that's the right mindset.
It's good to talk about Gafford in this way, you know,
yeah,
because
he's got value now, right?
It was at a point to where I would have got rid of his ass right away, right? He'd be gone, but now he's really coming into himself, and he's literally setting records, organization records, franchise records. So no, you're not just going to give him away for free. And if you giving him away, this is one of our prize players that. Listen, if you want him, we're going to be asking for a lot for him.
Yeah, exactly. And then you at least start out that way. I mean, every team postures, so you got to set the price higher than you're willing to take. And if you're willing to entertain the 30th pick, then you're going to end up getting like a mid-second round pick out of it. So he's of the guys, we talked about this before. You can't trade Koulibaly. I wouldn't be in a rush to trade Denny given the contract and the values given this year. Same for Gafford. He's young. He fits the timeline. Just the next guy here. I like Kyle Kuzma. Everyone who listens to that knows that he's my favorite player on the team the last 2 years. I wouldn't rush to trade him unless you feel like you get like really good value for it. But I would still consider it. He is a little older. You know, maybe he's less likely to be here by the time you actually rebuild. So that makes sense. And Brian Windhorst said that, you know, he's buddies with Michael Winger, so he's got some insight there that the Wizards essentially re-signed Kyle Kuzma with the intent on trading him. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody that he probably wouldn't be here for the duration of his 4-year contract. But once again, it doesn't mean you have to do it right now at this deadline. So unless the deal is absolutely sweet, you know, there's no rush. You're not panicking. There's no, like, you have the leverage, I guess.
Yeah, you do, and it's a negotiation game. So out of everybody, you expect to get the most in return from Kyle Kuzma, right? I do feel like they did sign him to trade him, right? But think they signed him to be able to trade him for a lot of leverage. He's their biggest leveraging tool.
Yeah, I think so too.
So no, they're not. They're not. But also they have to play the game. And that's why they're putting the information out there now. Hey, if you want this guy, you got to pretty much give me half your team.
Yeah, you better bring it. Yeah.
Or it's gonna have to be such an even trade. I want your star for my star.
Yep.
And
Toronto
it makes
basically.
sense.
Toronto basically traded Pascal Siakam for, I think, it ended up being 3 firsts and a young player, essentially. I don't think Kuzma nets you that much. He's not viewed quite the same way, but can you get 2 first-round picks and maybe a young player with some upside, like another reclamation guy like a Bagley for that? Do you think that's on the table?
I think he can. I definitely think he can. And you're trading Kyle Kuzma for the future.
Mm-hmm.
But also, to me, you got to get something in return right away with somebody who can also give immediate impact.
Yeah. This becomes
I'm
a really
not
tough
giving up
watch
Kuzma.
if you get no one.
Yeah, you can't get a no one. You can't just get first round picks.
Right. Yeah, there's gonna be something with that.
No, you got to get somebody for an immediate impact that's worthy of the trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense to me. ESPN's Bobby Marks said that Kuzma's on a great contract. He has more value than Pascal Siakam and Zach LaVine. I don't personally buy that teams would view Kuzma as more valuable than Siakam, just given age and production and things like that. But The Athletic had him 4th on their basically trade value rankings behind DeJounte Murray, DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine. I think that's probably pretty reasonable. And the Siakam came off that list because he's already been traded.
I think that fits.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fits. That's about right. I would agree with that. I would put him in that same position, about 4 behind those. I don't think he's with Zach LaVine or Pascal. I don't think he's that high on the level. But yeah, I would put him behind DeRozan.
I think it's at least a reasonable enough move. And the next guy, I don't think he should be that much further down the list, just given the names we've heard so far, is Tyus Jones. Like, I think there's some team out there that is going to say, that's the bench piece we need to make us a title team. And I'm not sure which team that is necessarily. Again, Bobby Marks said he has a tremendous amount of value to playoff teams out there. We can go through the list, whether it's Miami, Minnesota, Phoenix. He has value. The question becomes, what do those teams have to trade back to you that you want? And Dave McMenamin, also of ESPN, mentioned that the Lakers were in the market for point guard help and that Tyus Jones and Colin Sexton were the names to watch. So, again, could you get a late first? I don't even know if the Lakers had this to trade, a late first and Jalen Hood-Schifino or one of the young guys that have been recently drafted by the Lakers. Like, that would be interesting to me. Again, Tyus Jones, you probably have to trade just given he's probably not going to resign here and he's an expiring contract, but it also doesn't mean you have to take crap back either. And we know Phoenix has nothing left to trade us. So like a team like that shouldn't even be on our call list. You just immediately hit hang up if you're Will Dawkins.
It's nothing to talk about from Phoenix.
Right.
But also Tyus Jones, I don't know what are you looking for from him? Like, did he raise his value this year? Absolutely. Right.
Yeah, I think so.
But did he raise it as what you looking for from a point guard perspective?
No, probably not.
Right. So yeah, Tyus Jones, the type of player I would want before the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to need him to put the ball up.
Yeah, he's coming in to be like a bench scorer for some team too, and move the ball a little bit. I'm going to say,
Tyus, I'm going to need you to, I don't need you to force any shots, but if you open, score.
Yeah. Right.
That's not a point guard.
No, that's
not a point guard.
Undersized two guard.
So what does that type of player fit? Where does that type of player fit? In what team? So now, I could sell him as a point guard because his numbers look great. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, if a player better know what type of player they're getting.
Someone like New York that could use some bench scoring since they've traded out a lot of their bench players makes some sense. Somebody like Milwaukee, they need a little extra bench scoring and a little extra ball handling. Like those are the kinds of teams I'd be more willing to talk to. But like what I don't. Minnesota has some pieces, but do they make sense for us? Or are they willing to give us a first round pick to do it? I don't know. The market is going to be really interesting for him, I think.
Yeah, I think the market is niche for him.
Yeah,
like you said, the market is niche for him, and it really is. I don't know if the teams know that because Tyus Jones, because off numbers and off highlights a little bit, you may see a great guard, but if you watch them this year, you're getting a more of a you get more of a scorer.
He's a microwave scorer. Like can you come in and play the Jordan Clarkson role or Jason Terry kind of role?
Right. Exactly.
David S. asked in the chat if Tyus and Kispert could be a trade package. I don't think Kispert is a name we've heard much of. I assume there's probably not much out there going on. A playoff team that could use some shooting, sure. It's just, he's a valuable enough player for us on a decent enough contract, and he's young enough that they're gonna want something back from him. So what is a playoff team going to give up to give you both Kispert and Tyus Jones back? I think that one's probably a little less likely. And they're guys that make less sense for rebuilding.
You can't give away your foundation either.
Mm-hmm.
Like look, with the Wizards, almost everybody's on the trading block. It seems like, but I don't know if you can give away your foundation. There's certain players that's just they fit the right. They might not be your top players, but you need that foundation. It's more to me with the Wizards. It's not about the foundation part. It's not about the role players. It's not about the players who, our main players who can contribute off the bench. It's about our top players.
Yep. Getting some Daniel Gafford hate in the chat, essentially. The Truth said, hot take, Marvin Bagley will replace Gafford as starting center. Gafford is the worst starting center in the league. He's probably on the lower end, but I do think he's been better this year. And then 757 Finest said, I would trade Gafford for a first in a heartbeat. It depends on where the first is. The 30th pick to me in this draft, as Jahadi said, is not really a first. So I would not do that personally.
Right. And then it depends on what so if you're saying do offensive rebounding, Gafford is he's not giving you what you need as a starting center for offensive rebound. He's playing very under par for a starting center for giving us offensive rebound. Defensive rebounding at that. I think that's a major part for us. Now, rim protection, he's playing above board for rim protection, right? Field goal percentage, playing above board for field goal percentage. Right? So it depends on what you're looking for. Me, when I'm thinking about a center, if anything else, I'm looking for offensive, defensive rebounding, and rim protection, right? And finishing around the rim. So he's kind of giving us
it's 2/3-ish of the
3
way
out
there,
of 5 of those things. Yeah.
If you could combine him and Bagley into the same player, I think we'd really have something there. But maybe they can.
I don't know because I haven't seen any offensive, defensive rebounding from Bagley lately either. So I don't know yet.
That's fair. Yeah, what I'm in my mind view of what college Bagley should be as a pro, I just expect him to be a good rebounder.
Right, I do too.
DMV for life asked, what could we realistically get for Johnny Davis? I believe the overall player in the Wizards fan base that he is a bust. Could we get a second for him or just cut him? And Pierre Publico said, I'm sorry if I pronounced that poorly. No team in the league is looking at Davis, unfortunately. Yeah, Davis is only moving out the door here as salary filler in a trade at this point, unfortunately. Coming off the bench in the G League.
Yeah, I free up.
Only putting up 3 points. That's tough.
Yeah, I free up money. Davis just free up some cash. And not much, but at least free up some cash. for your roster spot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a shame that that's where we've gotten with Davis, but it's just, like there's no value that any team is going to see. There are certain guys around the league you'll say this is a reclamation project that I'm willing to take a chance on. There's nothing Davis has shown us, unfortunately, to this point, that any team is thinking, that's the guy I want to go out and see if I can rehab.
Right. Unfortunately.
Yeah, which is a shame. I do still think a lot of this is injury, but the shooting is getting worse again, and the form has changed again, and it just seems like it's also pretty mental. So I don't know. I hope they figure something out with him this offseason, or maybe you do move on. Maybe you just cut your losses with the money and you call it a day. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. One of the reported deals that's out here, Jahadi, that I think has been strongly teased for a while now is that the Knicks are willing to move on from Quentin Grimes, and they want to move out Evan Fournier because he's old and doesn't do much anymore, but he still makes a lot of money. So the wording was funny to me that they're dangling as if it's a huge trade package Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier, and draft compensation for, quote, a considerable upgrade. Wizards fans have floated, could Kyle Kuzma be their potential upgrade? I think the fit for him is a little weird in New York next to Randall and OG and guys like that. But is that a type of package you would consider for Kuzma? Like Grimes, who's a good young player, Fournier, who's salary, and maybe 2 first-round picks? Something like that?
Nope. I wouldn't.
Not
enough. I don't think it's enough. And I don't think, even though it's, we're getting some youth, right? Mm-hmm. But I think Kyle, I don't think Quentin and Fournier are high enough caliber in return.
They'd probably buy Fournier out at this point, to be honest with you. Like, he's not going to give them a ton at this point.
No, yeah, you're right. Right. So he's on the end, and then Quentin is just not the. I don't need equal caliber, but I need higher.
Yeah, I'm with you. That doesn't make sense to me from the Knicks' perspective either. Like I said, like he's not the guy I would go all in for if I were them, because it just doesn't fit. I would want another bigger guard to put next to Brunson if I were them at this point. But
right. Yeah.
Now a smaller deal, if they wanted Tyus Jones, for instance, as a backup guard off the bench, and they were going to give me Grimes, that's something I would consider. He's an intriguing enough piece to make sense for Tyus. I just wouldn't do it for Kuzma. Another sort of report out there that the Clippers are looking to move on from PJ Tucker. He's not really playing at all for them at this point. It looks kind of toward the end of his useful lifespan as an NBA player. And it said that the Wizards could be a landing spot for him. So basically they'd be taking him off the Clippers' hands in return for some kind of draft capital. And then the Wizards would essentially buy him out to free him up to sign with, whichever contender of his choice. It depends on what we'd get back to take on that money. How desperate are they to get off Tucker? Can we milk a couple second-round picks out of it? Then I'd be willing to do it. But I do like that strategy from them of, if we're going to take on guys and bad money, you better give us some draft capital to do it.
Yeah, because of the other reason, what's the purpose of doing it?
Exactly.
Especially you're not gaining any. So what's the gain from buying PJ Tucker out?
Literally nothing other than, freeing up a roster spot, which you could just cut one of your guys to do anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, you may be helping the Clippers out, but what are we doing that work for?
What's enough in your mind to make that worthwhile to do? Is it, I don't know, they give us 2 second-round picks and then that's worthwhile, or do you need a young player back from them in addition to that? Like, I guess, I don't know. How much do you need back to take on bad money?
I need to gain a little more. I mean, if I'm doing negotiation, I'm looking for a future potential. Somebody like a
Bones Highland, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Like like a little Bilal Koulibaly, not so much because that's a lot to give away for a team, but someone with a little more potential, you know. Yeah. If I'm just going to help you free up some money.
Joe Swam said in the chat that you might get a month of PJ Tucker actually forcing his teammates to play defense, as Wes hasn't, so maybe PJ could. If you were going to keep a guy as a veteran to teach people to play defense, PJ Tucker would not be a bad one to do that. The problem is he will not want to be here. So if he even shows up would be sort of the question.
Yeah, well, yeah, that is the issue. But isn't PJ from DC, right? PJ from DC.
You might be right. I did not know that if that's the case. He went to Texas, but I don't remember where he
I think so. I may be wrong.
I will look this up in real time here. Let's see. PJ Tucker's from North Carolina.
Okay.
Pretty close. Same region.
Well, he'd be close to home.
Yeah, that might be something.
Close to home. So, yeah, I mean, listen, if I did have a vet on the team, you know, that especially in practice, it would be PJ because he doesn't care. He doesn't care about putting the ball through the basket at all. It's all about defense. Yeah. With a guy like Marvin Bagley, you need a PJ Tucker to get in this about defense, right? So
it's a good guy to learn from.
Look, if I would, you know, you may be able to, you know, convert him over to the, you know, in player development.
Yeah, right. That's what I'd do with Anthony Gill at this point.
Because we need defensive emphasis.
Yeah. When the Knicks just released Taj Gibson for the last time, the reporting that came attached with it said that, but the Knicks, however, would be willing to bring him back in a front office or coaching staff role should he decide to hang it up for a while. I thought it was funny that leaked out as a part of either the Shams or the Woj report, because just like, I don't know, do we need to throw that in there? But I'm with you. Like PJ Tucker as an assistant coach down the road makes sense. I just think he probably thinks he has, you know, one more playoff round to give some team or something like
that. Everybody does.
they all think it, right? Whether
Everybody
they do
does,
or not.
But you know, but those roles like that and those opportunities, the coaching opportunities, it's good to get them if you got them, you know, so you can just go ahead and transition over.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Talking about that with PJ Tucker, like DeLon Wright has been a good defender in the NBA for the last several years at least, and he's on the team and can't incentivize any of his teammates to play any defense either. I think he's another guy that's likely to move out the door, and I've liked DeLon for most of the time. We've talked about this a bunch. I like what Landry Shamet has given us, but he's probably a guy that's likely to move on. So I guess what do you see the value being for either of those teams? Are these guys that teams are going to want to trade for, or do they hope that the Wizards will buy them out? Like, I guess, do you expect them to be able to get much back from either of those guys?
I think you probably can get something for Shamet because he's young and you feel like he got upside.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if you really would get a lot from him. You know, maybe I don't think you will really get a lot in return from him.
Monte Morris got 2 second-round picks. Maybe Wright gets you 1, something like that.
Maybe not. Right. You know, because I mean, no matter what team is getting DeLon Wright, they're not expecting. You know, they know what they're getting at this point, so they're not willing to try to give up anything major or for him. You might as well just buy him out.
Yeah, it might get to that point where if he's happy being here and, maybe you let him play for his next contract and actually get him some minutes and he can teach Koulibaly and those guys more about some defense. I don't know. He's not a bad locker room guy.
I don't think he's a guy that's about defense.
Right?
So you need the difference between why we saying PJ Tucker could probably be play development or something, because you understand he's boisterous, he's vocal. He's demanding.
Is DeLon during that piece?
That's the issue, right? So
accountability.
Just because defense don't mean you can force the information. It's a difference between passing along who wants it, other than forcing it on everybody.
That's true.
You need somebody who forces the information.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, he's probably not the guy in the locker room that's, shaking somebody down if they're getting beat all game or something.
Yeah, it's different, right? It's different type of personalities.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Folks, if you're still listening and watching at this point, hit that little like button for us on the podcast here. We appreciate that. If you're not already subscribing, subscribe wherever. And if you find yourself bored later today and you're on iTunes and you want to leave us an iTunes review, we always like that kind of stuff too. So appreciate that. Anyone else on this roster, Jahadi, that you think gets moved? Do you think there's any world where a Denny or Kispert move on? I personally don't see it, but I don't know. Could be alone there.
I don't see a world where Denny moves on. I don't see a world where Bilal moves on. To me, Kispert, I feel like even though he's kind of one of the find that foundation right now, guys, that you can definitely depend on to give you what you need. I think he's movable.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
The only two guys that I don't feel like you really can touch is Denny and Bilal. Everybody else, you can roll the dice.
Unfortunately, I think Jordan Poole is also untradeable at this point. It's just for the opposite reason, which is not
because
ideal.
He's untradeable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But hopefully that changes. The second half of the year.
You won't get back what you're paying for him. Yeah, you won't get back what you're paying for him. So yeah, I agree.
That would be tough. Mentioned Daniel Gafford. They added Hamidou Diallo to a 10-day contract, which was fine in a vacuum, but you've shipped out Gallinari and Muscala. Gafford, concussions linger sometimes. I think he'll miss this next game at the least, but maybe he misses the whole weekend. We'll see what that looks like. You've got Bagley coming in here new. No disrespect to Hamidou Diallo, but I would be trying to use that 10-day spot on another big. There's got to be somebody out there that they could bring in just to eat up some minutes. I don't know. It's just really hard to play an NBA game without a backup center. And Patrick Baldwin Jr.'s gotten some minutes as a backup big, but there's a difference between, playing a few minutes off the bench as like the third big versus like I am now the backup for a week. So it's at least something I would be considering.
If I'm Gafford, I'm going to make sure that concussion definitely heals first.
Yeah.
Because my value is what my value is.
Mm-hmm.
Bagley, let's see what he can do.
Yeah, right.
Diallo, let's see what you can do. Now things start to get a little. Things start to get a little funny. Maybe I will rush myself, but it's you. Bagley. Gafford doesn't have to rush the concussion.
Yeah, he shouldn't. I agree.
Right.
Maybe we see some Anthony Gill off the bench or something.
Yeah, we still got. To me, I'm gonna try out Diallo right now.
He's like 6'4". He's not gonna. Yeah, he's not gonna. He's not gonna fill Gafford minutes, I would think.
Yeah, well, what I would even give, like I would still try out those other opportunities, because what it does now is say, okay, what do we have? It gives the Wizards a chance to kind of see what they really have, what they're working with, and then what do we need to work with Bagley right away?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the opportunity to find out. I'm with you. The timing's actually not bad here. Just on the concussion thing, Jahadi, I probably wasn't a thing that people talked about as much as your day. Ever get a concussion from a basketball game, and did they even have concussion protocols at that point?
They didn't, and you don't know that you have concussions.
People weren't looking.
A lot of concussions you realize you never had.
Yeah,
I actually finally went to the neurologist, and they tested it out. They told me I had 6 concussions. Where did I get 6 concussions from?
Yeah, right.
During the game? Just because you're not passed out. This is not football. So it's different levels and severities of concussions.
Right.
But concussion can happen, and you can completely still function.
Mm-hmm.
I got elbowed by Shaq one time.
I was gonna say that seems like a pretty good.
I ran up and down the court pretty much blind for 3 to 4 times up and down the court before I could see again, and I didn't want to come out.
Right.
And so my vision came back. All the little starry things start to kind of dissipate, and I kept playing. Well, I'm sure that's at least one or three combined of those six.
Yeah, no
It
kidding.
may have been all five. It may be five in one. But and it's something I remember to this day. And and then when I was in high school, we was playing 2-on-3, 3-on-2. You know how you play that, and somebody threw the ball really fast. I didn't notice it, and bang, I got dizzy again. So I think those dizzy spells are considered concussions too. So, but I think Bagley Gafford is really, when you really run into another person full force like that, that's a major concussion.
Yeah, I'm with you. Shirley C said
So
in the chat.
I believe it's a lot of basketball players who have, you would be surprised, the majority of basketball players, if you put them through concussion protocol or test, they have at least 1 to 3.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Shirley said in the chat, you never know you have them. I think that's probably more so true for guys playing at your level too. It's just like, hey, I got my bell rung. I'll play through it. Now I'm glad those things are a little stronger. And yeah, again, Gafford, get well soon, but not so soon. Take as long as you need. And what are we going to do? Like end up at the exact same record we're at anyway. So I'm no rush at this point. Okay. Just kind of wrapping this up here. Let's see. Sir Knight also said in the chat, why not give another player an opportunity for backup center with a 10-day contract? I'd at least look. I mean, hopefully they're working the phones and maybe some other move that they have on the table for one of these guys brings another big back. But, there's at least guys I would have on a short list, or maybe one of the G League guys. You consider that for just insurance, and you get them a couple minutes.
I think it depends on how long Gafford is out.
That's going to be the question. Yeah. If it's a week or two, different story. If it's one game, it's kind of no point. David A had asked us the other week here, how much do one-on-one work do players get with player development staff in between games? Any insight into how much that might happen now, Jahadi? I'm assuming the younger guys do more of that kind of stuff than the older guys for sure. But how is it happening often?
I think it happens outside of practice. That one-on-one stuff doesn't really happen in practice unless you create an environment for it. All the one-on-one stuff that I ever seen was somebody had the individual trainer there, and you creating a situation to where you can build instinct with one-on-one. Like one-on-one work is great work, but it's not something that most teams create. Now, a lot of players love to do one-on-one right after practice. That's something, especially the most competitive players and your top players, that's what they want to do one-on-one, right? Because the top players, they're fueled off competition 24/7. So if you notice on any team, it's those top 3 or 4 players are the ones who the top scorers or the guys who really can score. They want to do one-on-one all day. Allen Iverson wanted to play one-on-one all day. Michael Jordan wanted to play one-on-one all day. Richard Hamilton wanted to play one-on-one all day, right? It's just that type of player.
The Wizards have had a running game after their practices of guys rotating through games of one-on-one where Kuzma, Denny, Gallo had been playing for a while. I'm not sure what the current list is, but those guys stick around after to do that. I think maybe more what he was asking is just how much individual player development work is going on. Like, is your specific player development coach spending an hour a week with you working on skill development, or couple hours? Like,
so back then, yeah, for sure. That's what their job is. And back then, it probably wasn't even that much player development coaches, but Mike Brown back then was work with the bigs, and he would get on our nerves because he wanted to be more physical than we felt like being at the time. We were like, man, get your football ass playing out of here with all this banging and bag and pushing, and like we know how the game don't go like ain't nobody pushing that much when we play ball, and it was a physical game. But it was mandatory. You had to stay back. You had to get the work in, and that's how it happens. Yeah, it's even back then. It was coaches allocated to a position, right? So just
No, this
because
is the
practice
big
is over
man
with,
coach.
don't
This
mean
is
the
the
coaches
guard
are
coach.
right. So when practice is over with, you stand at least 45 minutes with one of the coaches allocated that position, putting work in. And yeah, when I got here, it was mostly Mike Brown. Yeah.
Now it seems like
then
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say.
After that, you got it. Go ahead.
They seem to do it less by position these days for whatever reason. To me, that makes more sense. You have, if James Posey is on your player development staff, you have him work with the wings. But I don't know the current assignments by heart this year, but in past years, it would be like Beal, Gortat, and Otto Porter were all with this one player development coach. And it's like, that's three totally different skill sets. So it just seems like it would be tough for that player development coach to be like, all right, I can work on three different things with three different people.
Yeah, but see, when you got Bill Gortat and when players like that with a player development coach, what happens is we start training them all the different options in the plays that you can work together with. Okay. That builds you team wise of what you can do individually within the system, but it doesn't build you as an individual player.
Yeah, your own skills, right?
So now we can give you so it doesn't build your individual skills. What it does is build you say how these are your options within our system, and you can work on all and gain all your instincts within the system. So most likely in that situation, so a lot of Gortat and Bill doing pick and rolls and screen rolls a lot, right? There's all the options out here you can pop. Now work with this, and that's how a lot of people work with that. Even now, that's the new way of training. But to me, with that training, it doesn't build my natural instincts in any game situation, just screen and roll situation.
Right, just one small facet of the game there, right?
Right.
That's really interesting. Thank you for that. Sorry, I cut you off there. You were saying back while you were doing it.
No, what I was saying once you become more of a veteran player, then to me, once we became more of a veteran player, on certain teams, your individual work is up to you.
I gotcha. And all these guys have their own trainer now too.
Hey, right. Well, there's certain players you just can't tell come down here and get work in.
Right. Yeah, that's fair too.
Man, get the hell on. I'm going to go in this gym. I do my own work. What the coach gonna say? What the player development, right? Yeah. But those young guys, you're obligated. That's pretty much mandatory.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of some young players on their way up here, I read a really interesting article in the St. Louis Times-Dispatch about two young up-and-coming high school players in the St. Louis area, Jamison White and Jahadi White Jr., and they have a famous dad who played basketball at a pretty high level. So interesting article to read about. But there's a quote in there. I got to bring this up. It said, one thing that they both agree on is that they are both better dribblers and shooters than their dad. Did that lead to any challenges in the driveway when you get home after reading that? Like they're calling you out a little bit.
Hey, it's true. Look, as a father, putting your kids in basketball, you try to give them the main things you weren't good at first. So I was like, look, before I even teach anything that I know, learn how to shoot and go learn how to dribble. We're going to find that. Yep. Right? Let me put that in your toolbox first, because these days you got to be able to have that. So yeah, they definitely were. And then I still can't put the ball on the floor too well.
You can still take them in the post though.
Now
right?
I'm becoming a little better shooter than I was. But back in our days, if you can jump and dunk the ball and play five, your coaches tell you dunk everything.
Yep.
And if you shoot the ball, they just it curse you out. So, I did what I knew to do.
If you'd have taken a 3 in a game or pulled up in transition or something, how would John Thompson have responded to that?
He wouldn't.
Okay.
You know why? Because the option wouldn't be available at Georgetown to ever do anything like that. You wouldn't even consider it.
Right. No. Yeah, he would just know that's not happening, right?
That thought would never cross your mind.
That's awesome.
The only time you'll even be able to do anything like that at Georgetown in front of for John Thompson, if the clock was running out and the ball so happened to come to you at the 3-point line.
Yep.
You're like, well, I gotta, that's the only shot you ever get like that.
This was under JT3, but it was a top 10 matchup between Georgetown at the time with Roy Hibbert and UConn, and I had great seats for this game. It's coming down to the wire, and at the buzzer, they drew up a play to get Roy Hibbert his first 3-pointer of the season to win the game. And you know what? I didn't see it coming, and UConn sure didn't see it coming too. It was just one of those things where everyone in the place was like, wait, was that intentional? So times had changed, but it was just funny. It was his first 3 of the year. So it was an interesting time to scheme that up. It would not have happened under JT2.
No, it definitely wouldn't. But yeah, it wouldn't have happened. But what everybody didn't know that Roy knew how to shoot that shot.
Yeah, he had touch. He could do it for sure, and he drilled it.
Yeah, Roy had touch. It's he had just as good of a chance of anybody shooting that shot at the last second. So let's give it to somebody they would never consider guarding or would never expect that ball to go to.
Hey, saving it for a battle of top 10 teams is a pretty good time to have something, saved away for a rainy day too.
Yeah, I agree.
Sir Knight in the chat asked why John Butler Jr. has not been given an opportunity to play in at least one regular season game. Most two-way players at least get an opportunity. That is because they waived John Butler Jr. from one of their two-way contracts. So they moved on from him very briefly. So their two-way contracts right now are Jared Butler Jr. and Eugene Amarui and Jules Bernard. So they've got a guard, a wing, and a forward, essentially. But yeah, I would have liked to see Butler Jr. get a few minutes before they moved on to. So kind of disappointing. Jahadi, I think that's kind of all I had for you here. Any last shots, parting thoughts, anything like that?
No, man. Good show.
All right, everybody, stay tuned. We will keep you posted on all the latest happenings with the Wizards here. I think we'll probably have some movement and some more things to talk about. So expect to see us breaking down some more trades here over the next week or two, I would imagine, as things heat up going into February 8th trade deadline. Rate, review, subscribe. Like I said, all that stuff. If you hit that little like button for us on YouTube, we love that. And we're presented by betonline.ag, and we will catch y'all next time.